Okay, hello everyone. Today our topic is about the solar system, okay? So let's move into the first slide about a review for solar system, okay? So here we can see there are some components in solar system like the sun, 8 planets, and natural and artificial satellites, and dwarf planets, and asteroid and comets, okay? So I will introduce you one by one, okay? So first let's move into the sun and 8 planets, okay? So you can find in this figure there, the sun is on the left, right? It's a very big sphere. And Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they're just arranged in different orbit, okay? So we can say that from Mercury to Neptune, there are 8 planets, and the Pluto is a very small dwarf planet, okay? So maybe I guess 20 years before, Pluto is still a planet, but after that, scientists find there are some other system like solar system that have a attractive force for Pluto. Okay, so Pluto is not only attracted by the sun; it's attracted by other systems. Okay, so we cannot say that Pluto is a part of planet for the sun. Okay, so we can say based on these reasons, we can say, oh, maybe here there are only 8 planets in the solar system. Okay. So you can find here that from the left to the right, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, there's an asteroid belt right here. Okay, so there are many stones, many dust around this orbit. Okay, and after that, there's a Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Okay, so I heard of like a series of this, like you're using a formula for displaying the orbit, okay, and maybe for like billions years ago, maybe here there's still a planet, okay. So that is why here asteroid belt. Some people said, or some scientists said, oh, maybe here there's an explosion on the planet. It's a very big explosion, so that makes the planets to broken into pieces, okay. So maybe here we cannot make or remains the planet right here. Okay, so we can say right now from the left to the right is Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars to the Pluto. Okay, this is very important. Okay, so for this several arrangement for the planets and for the solar system, we can say, oh, maybe Mercury here to the Pluto. We can find from the left to the right, Mercury to Pluto. On the left, there are four, we can say, rocky planets, okay? They're all made by like solid, like for rock, or like for the sand, or like for the dirt, okay? So they can say that they are rocky planets, but in the core, they're rocky planets, okay? But on the right, there are Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. They are gas planets, okay? So that's for this, we can say, oh, maybe there's a like lines to make them into two parts, okay? This is the asteroid belt, okay? So you have to remember their name and their arrangement and their orders in the solar system. That is very important. Sometimes we will just tell you like what is between the Venus and Mars. You have to say, oh, Earth is between them. Okay, so the order is also very important. You have to remember all of them. Okay, so here I'll introduce you something about satellites. Okay, so satellites can divide into two parts. One is natural and one is artificial. Okay, so for natural satellites, we can say like Moon. The Moon is a very natural satellite for the Earth. Okay, and also we can say for like Saturn, there are some satellites around Saturn also for this. Okay, but artificial like satellite is just like SpaceX have released many satellites in the space. That is also we can call this artificial satellite. Okay, and many countries are still like sending their artificial satellite to the space. Okay, so artificial satellite just means made by human beings. Okay, so here, also we have asteroid and comets. Okay, so maybe for maybe 79 years or maybe 80 years, maybe for some comets and asteroid will just come near to the Earth, so we can observe it. Okay, so we have said asteroid and comets are very small pieces or very small stars orbit the sun. Okay, so we can say like the asteroid belt lies Mars and Jupiter, and there are also some asteroids, sorry, maybe also some comets just in the solar system. Here there is the sun, and here is a Hubble. Maybe we can say it's Harris like comets. Okay, I guess the name is Harris. I forget the name of the exact comets. Okay, so here you can find there's a for the difference, and you can find there's figures about 8 planets. Okay, from left to the right, Mercury to Mars, they are all the rocky planets. Okay, and they are very small, very small, and they are close to the sun. Okay. And on the below, you can find here very four giant planets, okay? And they're kind of called like the gaseous planets, and their size is very big. size is very big. Okay. This is for their different model for the solar system. I guess it's also very important for you to master it. Okay. And after that, it moves to the most important part in IGCSE physics. Okay. So this is about the ways or steps to form the solar system. Okay. So forming the solar system, I guess the word and the sentences is very hard for you to understand, but I guess you're very familiar with the procedure to make a cake, right? Okay, so maybe today is your birthday and you have to make a cake for yourself. And maybe here you can find you have to maybe need some steps to build a cake, right? And maybe here you have to first you have to prepare the ingredients, right? Ingredients, and then you have to prepare for you can make the flours, make the flour, make the like the sugar, like other kind of ingredients into together and put them together, and then mix it, right? And that is form the cake or the basic shape of the cake, right? And then you're putting the cake into the oven and make it just to expand and to heat up, right? And after that, you have to make some decoration on it. The cake becomes very soft, and to make some cream, to make some strawberry, to make some other fruits on it. Right? So you can build a very total cake. So the steps for forming the solar system just like this way, okay? So let's move into the first part. Like gravity collapsed the matter from nebula in on itself, causing to spin around the sun. Okay. So first of all, we have to remember or we have to know what is nebula and how nebula is around it or like it's just crowded in the solar system. Okay. So first of all, like if you know that about Big Bang, you will know that the universe is just Big Bang and from a point and from a dot just to span the whole or total universe. Okay. So it's just like a firecracker. You can find that it's bold and there are many pieces just to moving in different directions, right? Okay, so that is for the Big Bang theory. Okay, and you can set where the dust and the sand in the firecrackers and inside of this, they're just like different pieces around in the sun. Okay, around in the air. Okay, so also for the universe, if it has a big bang, it has a like a very strong explosion. That means there's must be some dust and sand in the air. Okay, so maybe here because the nebula is sand and the dust in the air. Okay, it's very similar. So for universe, nebula is like this way. Okay, there is a very little like matters to form the universe. Okay. So first, if you have some matters, they are very converged together and they're very close together, they can form a core and they can attract some matters or they can attract some nebula. Okay. And then they start to spinning. Okay. So just like you're first preparing your great ingredients and then you're just put them together and just mix them together like this way. Okay. And to spine it, right? Okay, and after that we can say, oh, maybe here are gravitational attraction between each other and then join together and in a acceleration process. Okay, that means like you're making a cake and you add with a flour, add with a sugar, add with some salt, maybe add with some other, maybe add with some eggs. Okay, add some cream. Okay, and many items in your cake. Okay, this is just like this procedure. And after that, we can set, oh, maybe here it starts to rotating and they're just converge together very strong, okay? And there are also some force and maybe some heat inside the core, okay? So it starts to fusion and starts to become very strong and stable, okay? So we can say, oh, maybe here it starts to become hotter in the inner part, okay? So you can find that in the Earth, if you know that maybe the core of the Earth is also a very high temperature core, right? Okay. So because oh maybe it can make it becomes a stable state and we can add some decorates after that. Okay. So there is a very total step for the solar system to form. Okay. So we can say that for each planet and the sun forming, we can also use in this way to explain. Okay. So it is for this. Okay. And this is just a discussion about the sun, why it is very hot and why or how the sun can emit the radiations and to use out heat. Okay. So in the sun, there's a lot of helium, hydrogen, and water. So and methane, okay, and also for methane. For hydrogen and helium, they can have fusion every time. Okay. So we have already learned about nuclear fusion, right? Like fusion, just like some very small, tiny particles like hydrogen and helium, they form together, and maybe two hydrogen, like hydrogen one, hydrogen two, form together, and you form the helium, right? Okay, so this is we can call a fusion process. Okay, so after fusion, they become very stable and form together. Okay, and you can find that, oh, maybe for some energy is released from the fusion process. Okay, so that some can release a very strong energy. Okay, so you can find this fusion. The fusion just makes inside the part there's a physical reaction inside of the uh, core, and there's a gravity outside, right? Okay, because like every particles on the surface just gives it a reaction force. Okay, that is for it. That is the gravity, and there's fusion, so it can become very stable and to become very hard. Okay, that is ways to forming the solar system and to forming the core. Okay. Okay, so after that, we can set that, so we can just discuss about different planets and their properties and why like some planets are gases and some planets are like solid gases, solid planets. Okay, so for that, we can say, oh, maybe if you're just moving away from the sun, you can find your distance is very big and planets are very large and the gases and cold, right? It's all because when you are just away from the sun, your temperature must become very low because you receive less radiation from the sun, okay? Okay, and so there's a total review for this. And first we have nebula. We said like a firecracker just to explode, and there's a nebula everywhere. Okay, like the sand and the dust. Okay, and after that, some nebula are very close together and they form a core, and they're just like making a cake, right? You're just mix them together and just using your hand to make it become very stable. Okay, this is becomes the first core. And after that, we can find maybe for several years, and you put into the oven and it gives heat and you gives it a very strong pressure. You're gonna find that it becomes very stable and to form a really stable core. Okay, so you're gonna find if you're closing to the core, it becomes very hard, right? Like it is heated, right? It becomes very hard. So closer planets sometimes are rocky planets, and you can find some very far distance planets. They are gaseous planets. Okay. So maybe after millions of years later, you can find, okay, so in the center, there are the, maybe for the sun, and here are different planets in their different orbit. Okay, so that is a total review for it. Okay, I guess it's not very difficult for you. Just consider it as a procedure to make a cake. Okay. The next time we're also just talking about for the cake making, we can use this process to just illustrate for other like the life cycle for a star. Okay, although for this, you can use this to make an example. Okay, so see you next time. Bye.